Welcome to A Dose of Feel Good. I'm your host, Whitney Bischoff, and today we are talking about where our life lessons are leading us. You can see full show notes at doseoffeelgood.my.canva.site. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to episode 32. Before we dive into today's episode, I have to give a huge thank you to everyone who has taken the time to tune in to join me on this journey. We have officially reached 500 downloads and streams, which I can't even believe that, 500 times people have listened to this podcast. So that's super exciting. Also super awesome. The Spotify Wrapped came out for creators like myself, and our Dose of Feel Good podcast performed better than 77% of new shows in 2025. So the hard work is paying off. Hopefully y'all are getting something out of our time together. But I really do appreciate everyone tuning in and spreading these feel-good messages. It really does make a difference. Now, our topic today is where our life lessons are leading us. And I know, at least for me, this is always a really hard time period for me. The anniversary, actually 25 years of my dad's death, is tomorrow, or the release date. Today, the 15th. And I know this is just always, each year, trying to navigate the grief, and 25 years is a really, really long time. So this topic just really speaks to me in the season of life that I'm in, the season just of the year that I'm in. So I wanted to share a few nuggets with y'all this week. I think when we're talking about, the life lessons that we are faced with and where maybe they're taking us to, I think it's helpful to remind ourselves that life is hard. I am not going to sugarcoat that everything is easy, or honestly, sometimes that we want it all to be super easy. But I think it's especially true that we know there are hard things that we are going to have to navigate. It's inevitable. And when we are in the thick of those hard moments, it's hard to look beyond those moments in time. It's more easy to be really stuck in those moments. And at least for myself, which I'll talk a little bit about, the moments that I face that I think have felt incredibly difficult, but it's easier to just kind of stay stuck and not feel like there is hope in the way out of those moments. And that can be really, really hard when we're talking about mindset and how to look forward beyond when we're in the thick of it. I do think from everything that I've faced or experienced that our hardest fought battles are those that genuinely shape us into the beautiful masterpiece that we are. I often think of, when folks compliment me for, how I carry myself, my maturity, how I approach life, all of those things. I do really think that if life would have taken me in a different direction and I wouldn't have had to maybe experience the hard things, that my personality and who I am would be very different. The canvas, the materials used to make me who I am, part of those hard moments really do shape me into how I now approach life. And I would love to tell you that in the moment I was like, yeah, I was just carrying on. But I didn't see maybe how that would shape me to who I am now. The impact that I have now, the people that I get to share life with. I do genuinely believe that all of those hard moments make me now who I am. And if you think or have heard of ACEs, so adverse childhood experiences, it's not just what you experience in childhood. It's really any hard moment. But that research shows that those hard moments are written into our DNA based on our stress response. And so it's not just this, warm, fuzzy thought process of, oh, those hard moments have made me stronger. When in reality, like, the fabric of who we are is based on sometimes those hard moments and the stress response, and it is actually written into biologically who we are. It doesn't necessarily make those hard moments or even the seasons that we experience hard things any easier at all. However, I think it does show us that we are fully capable of getting through those moments. We've experienced hard things, maybe not to the extent sometimes that we're in now or any of those pieces. But it shows us that we are able to overcome those things and that those moments are literally being woven into the skills that we now have, the fabric of the future version of us that is in the unknown that we can't quite see. But eventually these hard moments will be put to good. And I find so much comfort in that. So as I mentioned, I am facing I would say pretty monumental anniversary again of my dad's death. I tell people all the time that moment when that happened, obviously there was a lot of grief. I felt like I had a pretty normal and cheery life up until that point. And I often find myself wondering, if my dad was still here, if I didn't experience that grief in that moment, that my entire life trajectory would look different. And it would. It genuinely would. And it doesn't necessarily make that grief easier, even with time, because there's so many pieces that, I wish he could have experienced with me, that when I'm having a hard time now, that, your parents show you unconditional love and really yearning and wanting for that. But I also know that I am capable of doing a lot of life on my own, and also telling myself that, who he is or was, the goofiness that people tell me how great he was all of the time. But I often find myself, those are the same things that people are saying about me. And that's because of him being my dad and being able to kind of carry forward who he was into the world when he's no longer able to. And I do find a lot of comfort in that. It's taken a lot of time, but knowing that lesson in life shows me that I am capable of moving forward even in those large grief moments. I have a lot of stories that I want to share, but I want to be cognizant of our time together. But I think the other piece that a lot of folks might not know about me, I tend to be pretty close to the vest. But after my dad's death, the grief, the not knowing how to navigate all of that was really, really hard on my mom, my family, and growing up in the household I did after that was not easy. There were a lot of really hard things. My mom didn't know how to cope, so she became an alcoholic, and I think most people were aware of that. I don't talk about it super often, but when you have a family member that struggles with addiction, and I think especially my mom was so connected to my dad that she just didn't know how to navigate life without him. But that was also really hard for me, for my sister, sometimes not feeling like we were enough to be chosen over that addiction. And then the complexities that came along with that. Sometimes wondering where our next meal was coming from. My sister and I often talk about the holiday seasons we always dreaded because that was especially triggering for my mom, with my dad's death being so close to Christmas, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so it's taken a lot of cognitive effort for us to rewire what the holiday seasons look for us now. But even more so in our home, there was a lot of emotional, I would say, abuse, not from my mom, but from someone connected to her. She was abused by this person, and just the genuine fear. I remember, being worried about even going to take a shower and taking care of myself, leaving the house at all in fear that something would happen to her. And that can be really, really traumatic. And I always say I would never, ever wish any of that on even my worst enemy. But I say all of that because now looking back, I am definitely someone that's not scared to stand up for what is right. And I think I learned that from living in that environment. I also have definitely learned to not take things for granted, and to even my sister and I, when we talk about the holidays, we now have the opportunity to change that narrative. And I think that's really powerful when we're talking about, maybe trauma that was passed down to us. We can make a different decision, right? Those life lessons are leading us, or can lead us, to make better decisions for ourselves and the future people that we're connected to. All that being said, I think right now in my moment in life, obviously I've navigated a lot of really hard things, but currently there's just so many medical unknowns that I have in this entire year. I know I've mentioned that in a variety of podcast episodes, but I find myself being back to that place of feeling like life is so hard and outside of my control. And I think the beauty of experiencing those hard lessons in a previous lifetime, it feels like a lifetime ago, is that even though there's a lot of fear and unknowns where I am right now, I know that it will all lead to a better place. Even if it's worst case scenario, that there are so many opportunities for me to show what a positive mindset can do, that healing that comes with that, and just that genuine gratefulness for each and every day and every moment. I think what this actually looks like in practice and the impact it can have. I often find myself, I've been told all the time, how strong I am and how much folks admire that. But I think sometimes, at least for me, like that strength can feel heavy. And even with, the outside validation of, oh, I can actually do these things, it sometimes feels like there's a lot of pressure of, I didn't want to have to be strong. I didn't want to choose to have to be strong. That was just something that life threw in my way, and I think sometimes continues to throw in my way. My husband says all the time, he was like, you're just so great that the world has to continue to nerf you so that you're not so powerful. So there's some positive mindset there too. But the reality is that life genuinely isn't fair. The universe was not designed for everything to be easy, for us to kind of roll through it. And unfortunately, sometimes these hard things, the concept of, oh, it builds character, that's real in this moment, right? That I think all of those hard things, again, has woven me into the fabric of who I am, how I approach life. And while I wouldn't wish anything hard or bad on anyone, I do think it's taught me to be grateful for the little things now, even when it is hard. I'm always kind of thinking back of but life is so much better now than in those really hard moments. And so it gives me that gratefulness that I'm not sure that I would have the same appreciation for if I didn't have to navigate those hard things. It was leading me to where I am now, that I'm navigating all these medical issues, that I know I'm capable. And those moments were leading me to now, so that I have that resilience to kind of push forward in these moments. And again, I think when I start to question, what if this would have happened, or what if I didn't have to experience this, or any of that, I don't think I know I wouldn't want to change any of it, which is weird to think back now of why would I choose to kind of go through what I had gone through? But I think genuinely it's because it's the beauty of now who I am from all of those pieces, however broken they were, that were woven into who I am now. And I think just that reminder that each moment is an opportunity to grow into who we were always capable of becoming, and those hard things are that reminder of that. But it's also taking us to where we're meant to be and who we are meant to be. And I know I don't want to take that for granted or make light of that at all. So I genuinely think that life has led me to where I am now, and it's a good place. Even in the hard moments and the hard seasons that definitely still exist, it's a beautiful place that I'm in now, and I can genuinely appreciate that. So what to do with these things? I am still going to give us some call to action from this, even though it's very, just kind of that mindset shift of where we might be. So I encourage you to write down what the hard moments have taught you. I think it's the reminders of those seasons of hard, and that we're not currently in those, so that gratefulness, but what has also those moments taught you. I do think there's always lessons in each of those moments, so being able to write down and acknowledge that and connect those dots. I think the second piece is to remind yourself that you've done hard things and you can do it again. There will be challenges that we will inevitably face as we navigate life. But it's that reminder that I've done hard things before and I'm fully capable of doing that again. And the third piece, and this is one of the pieces I think when we navigate grief or hard moments. I was talking with someone recently and they were like, people show up in the moment. A lot of people show up. But, after the dust has settled, I always say like a month at most, then all of that support just kind of dwindles. You're left sometimes what feels like navigating those things alone. And so the third piece as a call to action is give yourself consistent presence. And what I mean by that is show up for yourself in the hard moments, take care of yourself, make that a priority. But then also, if you know of people who are going through a hard thing, or maybe who have recently gone through a hard thing, show up for them. There is so much power in people showing up when you least expect them to, especially, again, when that dust has settled. It doesn't mean that it's any easier, that any of that grief is easier. But when you show up, again, I'm a big focusing on others. Yes, showing up for those that are having a hard time. But again, show up for yourself. Give yourself that grace. Give yourself that time to refill your cup, if you will, to navigate all of those hard things, to validate yourself, and continue to show up for yourself and put yourself first. And you'll realize that even in the hard moments that either previously have happened or are happening now, it is leading you to a very beautiful version that shows yourself how incredibly capable that you are. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are feeling ready to conquer the week and let your impact ripple out to the world around you. Let's connect on Instagram and Threads at Dose of Feel Good Podcast. If you're loving the podcast, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Until next time, share your own dose of feel good and never underestimate the power of positivity.